Now Sweeney, Dwayne Sweeney! Sweeney's over!
Can you please hand it over to your captain, Dwayne Sweeney?
Welcome to Real Tales with Sweens. This episode I catch up with Joe Edlington, or as most would know him, J.E.Wilds. Joe has been a professional hunting guide for the past 10 years, working with some of the world-leading outfitters, Wildside Safari and Venator Cardrona. He also has a passion for fishing, which stems from growing up in the fishing mecca that is the far north of New Zealand. It's fair to say that Joe is very skilled with either a rod or a rifle in hand, but his true talent is what he can produce both behind and in front of the camera. Joe's artistry to capture and share both his and others' adventures in the New Zealand outdoors is unmatched by any other YouTube video creator, in my opinion. He has a real gift in sharing the journey and making you feel like you're right there with him. We cover Joe's tale in great depth and he shares some awesome yarns. From gaining a love for hunting in the library, spending 8 days in the mountain with only his dog Nigsy Boy and his camera, his first professional client with Wildside, who is now a great mate, his new 9-part solo hunting series, and his up-and-coming adventure fishing series, Hunting Wild Boy, and so much more. As always, the show notes will be available on Instagram at Real Tales with Sweens and the website realtaleswithsweens.com. The website will also have all the links to listen on your favourite platform, and trust me, you're going to want to check out Joe's page, as it will have all the video content to all his tales. I want to thank Joe for sharing his tale with us. It was awesome to meet you, mate, and look forward to watching your future adventures. So join me as we get to know J.E.Wilds. Enjoy the podcast. Awesome, so I'm just sitting here with Joe Edlington, a little bit of a fanboy moment, as I've watched a fair few of his YouTube videos, but the power of social media, Joe, and how we ended up here, really, isn't it?
Mate, social media is like it's the way to communicate nowadays, it seems, eh?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, it was, obviously I was a big fan of what you're doing, reached out through Instagram, listened to the podcast that you did with the boys, with Curran on the Educated Hunter, and thought, man, this is someone that I was real interested to talk to, and that was prior to me setting up this podcast. But yeah, once I sort of set it up, I was like, he's the sort of guest that I'd be keen to get on. So thank you very much for making your time available, mate.
No worries, man. My pleasure. We've got a few things in common, so, it's pretty easy to talk a bit of shit and stuff like that, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, it's worked out quite nicely. Joe's actually staying tonight, so that feeling of knowing somebody through social media and then a few messages, it's still a little bit daunting, to turn up to someone's house and make sure I'm not crazy.
Yeah, well, I didn't know what to expect, but I'm pretty sure that you were going to be a good sort, so happy as to turn up, man. Happy as to turn up, and you're in a beautiful spot up here.
Yeah.
Nice and green, good area.
Yeah, pretty lucky. Yeah, very lucky where we live. Geez, I don't know where to start with you. Like, we've, like you said, we've got a fair bit in common, which is cool. My, two heavy passions of mine are fishing and hunting, and you're heavily involved in that. Effectively turned them into your career. I don't know, where do we start? Do we start with how, I guess, the hunting side of it came out?
Yeah, I guess, I don't know, man. I've like most of, probably a good chunk of your listeners and most Kiwi guys, hunting and fishing has sort of always been there in some way ever since I was young. Fishing probably earlier than hunting for me. My dad was a keen fisherman, and I remember just going fishing at a really young age, and that was just, I was in love with that, man. Going to the beach, doing all that sort of stuff, and hunting was always something that I wanted to get into. And obviously when you're young, you're sort of dependent on the people around you. So I was often dreaming about going on these big hunts and one day hoping that I'd actually get on to deer hunting and things like that, reading magazines, cover to cover, all that sort of it when I was young. So yeah, hunting was always something I wanted to get into from a really early age, but yeah, just had to mature a bit before I could actually get out there. But yeah. I guess starting off, it's the same old thing, like rabbit hunting and shooting birds with the air rifles and all that stuff is generally how most of us in New Zealand get into it. So yeah, I definitely went through those phases, and that was good, man. Taught me a lot of skills, and yeah, I guess it evolved from there, man.
Yeah, that's so true, How when when you're younger, you're just a product of like your environment and what's around you. Like for me, I got into, rugby, hunting and fishing because it's what Dad did, and I can already see it now. My two boys, they love it. They, they're fans of the show, fans of Joe's YouTube videos, and Cooper talked about the Fog City.
Yeah. It's quite good talking to them before. They obviously pay attention on the videos.
Yeah, it's amazing what they take in, eh? Well, the other thing that he actually mentioned was he goes, "Oh, Dad, is this the guy that shot the stag?" And you talked about how he walked up behind it, the one in the meadow.
Yep.
Yeah, and how he basically walking in from behind. He remembered that.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's crazy. Like it's it's amazing what they take in. But talking of Fog City. Just shout out to Good George. They've shared again a little gift pack with Joe. So he's got a bottle of gin there and a Raglan Roast IPA in there. But we're actually drinking the Fog City IPA, the hazy IPA.
How about that, eh?
Yeah, how about that? Yeah, so how are you finding it, Joe, the Fog City IPA?
Well, man, like I said before when we were having our chat earlier on, I've never really been into craft beers and that sort of line of stuff, but I really like this. Like, I would buy this. I reckon I would buy this. This is really nice.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man. Tasty. Freaking tasty. Real good.
Yeah, it's I like your honesty there too, actually, because most people would probably just say, "Oh yeah, it's awesome," but the fact that you admitted not a fan of craft beer, so I'm actually glad you enjoy that.
No, it would be the nicest craft beer I've ever tasted anyway. It's got like that little hint of fruit to it, so it's quite nice.
Yeah, no,
kind of feels quite fancy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But still good.
Yeah. Yeah, back to, I suppose, talking about growing up, I guess, and being a product of your kind of environment and that. And you mentioned there, like, hunting wasn't something that you did, especially around the deer side of it, and you dreamed of doing it, but you grew up, obviously, in the era of no YouTube like I did. So, was it magazine for you that got you?
Yeah, definitely magazines. It was, I remember Mum would take me to the library and I'd actually hire out rod and rifle magazines. And I'd get them by the stack, man. I'd have them by my bed and I'd read them from cover to cover and I'd study the photos, and it was like, I literally would dream about going raw hunting or deer hunting, I'd read books, and I'm probably at an age where you normally wouldn't see young fellas like that reading books as in depth as I was.
Yeah.
But I was so passionate, and I really wanted to actually get out there and try this mainly, I should say mainly deer stalking, big game hunting. But yeah, man, at an early age it always fascinated me. But being, for me, like I grew up in Whangarei, which is up in Northland.
Long way from
we don't really
deer hunting.
like there is deer up there. They're not really known about, but as far as good deer stalking goes, it's not. You got to travel a long way to get into some good hunting. So, for me, deer hunting at that age in my life, pretty much was out of reach. Like it was way out of reach for me at that age. So, yeah, it was something I dreamed about, man. And reading those magazines cover to cover gave me my fix, but then again it probably fueled a fire that I couldn't quite put out, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that, because I don't know, I often think about my hunting and fishing kind of passion, or obsession, I'd call it, because it is like it, when the raw's coming up, it just kind of takes you over and it's all you think about, it's what you want to do. Fishing's the same for me as well. When the game season rolls around, it's all I'm thinking about, it's all I want to do. So it's almost like it's in your DNA. And when I hear your story, like I grew up around it probably a little bit more with Dad doing it, but for you being so far disconnected from it, like there must be something in your DNA that has fueled that, really.
Yeah.
Did you hear stories from other people? Or was it just the magazines?
Yeah, man, it's hard to recall, but yeah, I probably would have heard some stories, but yeah, definitely there was something drawing me to those magazines and books and all sorts of stuff. So I guess I always wanted to do it. My dad he did a bit of duck shooting and stuff like that, but he never was into big game. I didn't have any friends that were into it, so yeah, I was sort of like, I was definitely in a pool of my own. Mate, honestly, I probably would put it down to the magazines that really gave me the inspiration to get out there. And one day, I dreamt about being the guys in these stories that I was reading. I used to love reading those articles that, just all us hunters would write an article, would send it into a magazine, and they'd publish it. Those are the stories I'm talking about. So I'd dream about being one of these guys in these articles doing these hunts, man. That was like all I could think about at that age. Yeah.
Have you written any? Like,
Over the years I actually have. Not for a little while. I've been asked to do quite a few, but I haven't. Lately, I've been doing other things. I should get into it because I actually enjoy writing about my hunts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I might have done 15, 16, 17 hunting articles in all the old pig hunting magazines.
Oh yeah.
I've done a few. I think I've done one in one of the fishing news mags. I've done a few spread out. So I have done a bit of writing. It is something I like. But yeah, to be honest, finding time nowadays is, I'm pretty tied up with editing. If I'm not in the hills myself, I'm like generally spending my time on the computer. So
yeah,
I think I will get back into it though and do a bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, were you much of a writer like at school? Was school your thing?
School, I'd like to say school was the time to go and eat my lunch, but I actually enjoyed certain parts of school.
Yeah.
I was really big into ag and horticulture and stuff like that. English was a pretty strong subject of mine. Definitely more strong than, say, maths. But so I did enjoy English. I didn't enjoy it for the subject, but I feel like I could write and I could read pretty well.
Yeah.
School for me though was I was really hooked on like agriculture and stuff like that, horticulture and tourism. Those were my subjects that I was right into. And then PE, obviously everyone likes PE.
Yeah.
But then and then hanging out with your mates as well. But
because I've done a little bit of writing, done a few articles on like a few hunting and fishing stories and some of the adventures that I've had, but then also done, I suppose, through setting up my website for this podcast, and had to actually write, about myself and things, and those little bios and blurbs, etc. But I hated English at school, but I actually find it quite easy to write those because I'm passionate about it. So
that's the key difference right there, man. You're passionate about it.
Yeah.
When you're at school, and if there's any young fellas listening to this, you might not be enjoying it, but it's going to come in handy one day.
Yeah.
Hey, but when you're passionate about something, definitely you're putting a lot more effort into it because I don't know, it's more personal then, eh?
Yeah, well, I think about that from like a rugby point of view, and I've played, rugby with a lot of people over my career, and the most talented ones never made it. It's the ones that just were so like almost nerds. Like, I was a nerd of the game of rugby, so that's why I became professional, because it's all I thought about. And I just had this, I suppose, vision or goal that I wanted to get to. For you, that was the hills to hunt big game. For me, that was to play rugby. So I just devoured just about every second or minute of my day that I was awake. That's what I was doing.
Yeah, man. The mind's a powerful thing, eh? If you set your mind to something, it's amazing what can happen.
Yeah. How did this kid go from reading these magazines to being like a YouTube superstar now, really, for a just
I don't know about
lack
a
of a better
superstar.
word. Well, in my household, you're a superstar. My kids know about you. Even my wife has to put up and watch your videos.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
No, I think I suppose the first introduction to big game hunting, so to speak, would be I think early teens, maybe 13, something like that, maybe younger, somewhere around that age. I can't quite remember. My dad's friend actually invited me out on a pig hunt. Well, Dad actually organised it. I tagged along on a pig hunt, and we didn't catch anything, but I was so excited just to be out there doing it.
Yeah.
We didn't catch anything, but I was still happy as. Then I went out for another go with the same guy, and he's a bit of a legend up north, old Len Harding, if anyone knows him listening. Went out for round 2, and I remember that night Len took me out, and we went out to some station that his mate owns, and middle of nowhere, and drove for hours getting out there. And
is this up in the far north?
Far north,
yeah.
And we set up in his house, and there's a rugby game on. I don't know who was playing.
Yeah.
I can't remember who was playing, but I think it was an All Blacks game. And so Len and his mate were watching the rugby. I was there watching it as well. And I remember that night after that, I literally got no sleep because I was so freaking excited in bed. I was like, man, there's a hunt tomorrow. Len had talked about this. He'd seen some fresh boar sign of a real good boar. So that was the target animal.
Yep.
So he'd been telling me about this boar sign, and I was, the whole night, man, I was literally lying in bed like I could not go to sleep. And I was so excited to wake up in the morning. So eventually the morning came along, and we started heading out for this hunt, and I remember it being quite misty, and we're walking along, and 3 dogs with us. And then, eventually, after a little while, the dogs got onto the scent and disappeared. And I think we had 2 dogs off finding, 1 dog on a rope. And then we heard, a couple of barks down the valley, way down below in the fog. And so we let the other dog go. And then, next thing, big bail up happening, man. And, this is my first experience with this. So you got to remember, like, this kid's never slept that night before. He's freaking excited as anything. So there's this big bail up going on. We're running down to this bale, and it's in the swamp, and I'm following Len, and we turn up, and the dogs they've got this big boar, this real nice boar, big jaw on and big tusks, and this is my first time at actually being involved in a big game hunt. I remember Len telling me to go in there and grab it by the back legs. I had both my hands and I couldn't fit it around one back leg, I'm like trying to hold on the back leg. I was doing nothing, I may as well not even been there. Anyway, so Len obviously sorted it out, and I just remember the excitement, man. I could not believe it. I could not believe what had happened. And then to find out later on in life that was to have that as my first actual, big game, a big gnarly tusky boar like that was pretty special. So I was real lucky, man. But I remember that moment. It was just like, this is the best thing ever. The whole hunt, the kill wasn't the big part. It was like the tracking down the animal. It was like closing in on the area and stuff like that. So man, that was my introduction.
Yeah, we can even hear it there, like how important the journey is to you. You just told a story, and it like all hunters do this, all fishermen do this. You just told a story. Even rugby players, we do this. Tell a whole story, and I suppose the kill, or in rugby it'd be the try, or in fishing it's the catch. But the whole story was the journey to get to that point.
Yeah.
And then the story stops. So it's like, if you think about it, like people always say, hunters this, hunters that. Same with fishermen, whatever, cruelty, the rest of it. But it's not all about that end game.
Definitely,
it's about the journey, and it's about, you cited what you did the night before, and you're talking about traveling out to the station like that, and that's a very vivid memory for you.
Yep.
From when you were 13?
Yeah, some around that age.
Yeah.
Yep. No, definitely, man. The kill was only it's a big part of it, but it's a small part as well. If you want to, it's hard to explain, but the journey leading up to that's a lot of people listening can probably relate to that. The journey is the part that gets us all going.
Yeah. Yeah, well, definitely. Like any rugby player is the same. When you're, it's not all about the try. It's like how it's created, how you get to that point.
Yeah.
You might train a certain move for a certain amount of time, and then you finally get a chance to pull it off. And when you execute it, it's like a real satisfying thing that a group of you do. And quite often it is like it's multiple players that create an opportunity. With you, it was your little group that got to go for your hunt and your 3 dogs.
Yep. Yeah.
No, it's pretty cool. And then you said that you were really lured to the deer side of it. Can you remember your first deer hunting experience?
The first time I went deer hunting would probably be, I can't remember, man, but it'd be one of the old trips. I'll be a teenager now. Maybe we've got a license. I remember my first deer.
Yeah.
I don't think that was the first deer hunt though.
Yeah.
But I remember my first deer, so I'll tell you about that one.
Yeah.
That was me and Lance were going on a hunt. We did I think it was about a 5 or 6 hour hike into the Te Urueras.
Yeah.
Hiked into a hut there. Yeah, we hunted for like a week, man. We didn't see a single deer. It was hard. It was hard work, but it was, we're still trying to figure it out.
Were you getting any tips or any knowledge to
Well,
that point? Or were we just like, we're just going?
It was just both of us. Neither of us were experienced. yeah, we were just trying to wing it, man. We were just trying to do our best. But we didn't have any action. We had a good time, but we didn't have any action as far as deer goes. So I remember going out and we'd parked the wagon at a farmer's place, and he'd let us park there so we could walk in the track so our wagon was safe. And he said, "Come and see me when you guys get out." So we did, just to tell him how we got on, and he said, "Oh, well, actually, come and hunt with me. I'll take you out the back. You guys have done the hard yards. Now let's go out the back of my farm here and see if we can get a deer." So, we're like, "Oh yeah, this is cool. Yeah, man, we're keen as." So I remember following him out there, and we get right out the back of his property, and then there was on evening we ended up coming across some red deer feeding out of the bush. There's a few spikers and stuff like that, and some hinds, and he said, "Oh, one of you guys want to try and get up on one of those hinds and take one of those hinds for meat?" So anyway, it happened to be me, and I remember lining up on this thing, and then he was talking me through it, basically guiding me through it, and we got this. I pulled a shot off, and it was a good shot. Hind went down, and then we get over there, and my first deer, man. I was stoked. I was absolutely stoked. So I think we took all the meat out, gutted it there, carried it out, and then took all the meat back up north, and that was my first time at it, man. And this is like after years and years of getting to this point. This was the first time I actually managed to get one.
Did you know that guy, the farmer?
No, didn't know.
Nah. So you just like, oh, can we just park here? Cause
yeah, well, like there's a dock car park, but the dock car park there was broken glass all over the gravel.
Yeah.
And we were real nervous about it, so we went up the nearest driveway and we told what our plan was, and we'd told him that we'd come from 7-hour drive or whatever it was, and he said, "No, boys, why don't you park up here on my driveway and then walk down my driveway back down to the dock track? You'll be safe that way, and then come and see me afterwards." Yeah, you made a point to say, "Come and see me afterwards."
Yeah.
So
what a legend, eh?
Yeah, good dude, man. Yeah. I honestly I can't even remember his name. Like, yeah, it'd be cool to actually just send him an email or something nowadays. But yeah, I remember he was a real nice guy, and the fact that we had just put that massive effort into going into the forest to do this big hunt, and he knew that it was gonna be tough. Like I'm pretty sure he would have thought, "There's no way those boys are getting me." It wasn't in a raw. It was straight bush hunting. We put the hard yards in, and he was like, "Well, I'm gonna reward these young kids for doing that." So I think now that I'm speaking about this, I'm remembering a few hunts before that, and I remember fresh out of school, I actually went to the Polytech up north, and I did a professional pest hunting. What was it called? A professional hunting and pest control course.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I did that straight out of school, and mate, I've forgotten all about this. So this is like bringing up old memories.
Yeah.
So this course was a 6-month course.
Must be that Fog City.
It's been the Fog City, eh? Unfogging my memory. But anyway, so we did this course, and it was a course more designed for like people probably another 5 years older than me, 10 years older than me maybe. But anyway, I did it. I was straight out of school, and I think my mum and dad asked me what I wanted to do, and anyway, here I am in this course. So it's teaching me. It's a course teaching you about. I don't even know if it's still running, but back then it was teaching you about like hunting and pest control and stuff like that, and basically giving you skills to hunt and gather food as well as do pest control. But the end of the course was actually a deer hunt, and that was like the finishing thing. That was like all this theory building up to a practical, which was our hunt, and that was a hunt in Waikaremoana, like an 8-day hunt or something like that, Lake Waikaremoana, and so that was like the thing we were all working towards. But during this course, we were hunting pigs. I remember shooting pigs with rifles, and we were getting them with dogs and stuff, and goats, and we did lots of hunting. We learned a lot of things. That was cool, man. I think the course was like, I think it was like a $4,000 student loan back then. So I was paying that off for, a few, my teenage years. But yeah, like I was mad keen on hunting, and I learned a lot from that course for sure. Like the teacher, Gary Samuels was his name. I learnt a lot from him. But anyway, yeah, so we're hunting we're hunting pigs and we're hunting all sorts of stuff and doing lots of theory and learning about wind and learning about, thermals and behaviors of animals and all this sort of cool stuff that I was like freaking fascinated about, And then it came to the final where we got to go for this deer hunt. And I remember we got a water taxi across Lake Waikaremoana, and there was a dock hut, and then there was also clearings at the far side. And yeah, we were camping up there, man. And I was hunting with Gary, the tutor, because I was young. Like my nickname was the Kid on the course. Like all the boys were a lot older than me, all ages. But my nickname was the Kid. Like I was known as the Kid because I had long surfer hair. I was like some little ass kiddo, and anyway, yeah. So I remember we were doing some hunting, and I had a couple of opportunities with deer with Gary. Like I think we saw one. Me and Gary were walking because obviously I was too young, so he was hunting with me. But yeah, me and Gary were walking along and hunting the bush and stuff like that, and. Yeah, I think we came to a point, I remember, and Gary's like, I can smell a stag. I can smell a stag right here. So we're going to work this little basin in front of us. But we never saw him. But I remember that moment. I was pumped. I was so excited about it. I hadn't shot my first deer at this point. And then after that, we were on our way back down to camp, maybe same day, maybe a couple of days after. I can't remember now. But Gary said, I'm going to peel off down here. You're going to follow this main spur, this main ridge, right down to the lake. And then I'll be waiting down there. But I want you to hunt your way down with all the skills that you've learned. So I remember going down there, and I was sneaking my way down there, and I remember I actually came across a deer in the bush, and I was sneaking along, and there's this big patch of fern and scrub and stuff like that in the middle of the big native, and I was just creeping along like super stealth, and next thing there's this red hind feeding through like really close, and I ended up getting like 5 meters from her, 5 meters away from her, but I couldn't get a shot off. And it went away. The deer obviously smelt me and got out of there. But I remember that point. I was like, man, that was pretty cool experience. Like to be able to track that down myself. I sort of fluked it. I walked onto it basically, but it got me buzzing, man. I was adrenalized. Got back down. Told all the guys in the group, and yeah, I remember that was my first time deer hunting, and obviously all those magazines had built me up to that point.
Yeah.
But yeah. It definitely met my expectations. Like I was excited. I was so amped to be there, Yeah. And then obviously led on from there. I think my first deer, the story I spoke about just before, was it may have been pretty soon after. I don't know, maybe within a year, maybe a couple of years after. But yeah, those were my early deer stalking days, man.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
I hadn't thought about those at all until now.
Yeah. That's pretty wicked because. Like for me, I just grew up. I remember, going to bed at night, and Dad didn't read us stories or books. Like Mum would do that, but if Dad came in, it was like a hunting or a fishing story. I remember me and my brother. I've got 3 younger brothers, but me and my next brother down are only a couple of years apart. So we quite often shared a room growing up, and we look forward to the nights that Dad put us to bed because. Yeah, we got told an old hunting or an old fishing story. Hunting was probably the main ones, like because you can tell a lot more to a hunting story.
Yeah. Where
fishing, you go out and you can, you're in a boat or whatever, but the whole journey of the hunt and where it was, who was it with, and I guess the adventure of it all was it just fascinated me. Couldn't wait till the day that I got to go hunting with him.
So he was a mad keen hunter?
Yeah, he did a lot. Yeah, he did a lot when probably through like when we were kids he didn't do a lot, like having 4 boys kept him pretty busy and we were all playing sports, so he didn't do a lot then. But then once we sort of got into our teenage years and we were old enough to go, then it sort of reignited that fire back in him. I think he realised how much he'd missed it, and then we were mad keen on it because we'd heard all the stories. So him and his twin brother used to do a lot when they were growing up. They used to get up to all sorts of mischief. Out there in the bush. I just remember there's probably a fair bit of bullshit in his stories, but they were pretty intriguing for me, and they lit a fire in me that kept me pretty interested in giving it a crack myself. That's for sure. I suppose we'll head further down the track of how you've got to this point now of what you're doing with the YouTube and with your, I guess, your cinematography of it all and your filming of the hunts and that, and some guiding and that, how did that all come about? Like, was it just you just wanted to find a way to do this full time?
Yeah, definitely. It definitely. I remember as a young kid, you get asked in school, what do you want to be when you're older? For me, there was two answers, and they were always the same answers. One was I wanted to be a shepherd, roaming the hills with a team of dogs, moving animals around, living on a farm kind of thing. And the other one, which was obviously more important to me at the time, was I wanted to be a hunting guide. You know, so those two things were always something that that's what I wanted to be.
Yeah.
People want to be firemen, police officers. I wanted to be one of those two,
Yeah.
So,
did you understand how much of a pathway was there for it when you were saying this? Did you realise it was achievable?
Yeah, I think back then I just thought, well, it's a job, so that's what I want to do. I didn't realise that it's extremely, shepherding, obviously that's something you can work towards quite easily, and there's a lot of, a lot of good paths to take to get to that point. But hunting guiding is such a niche market, man. So at the point when I'm a kid thinking about this, I just thought, I want to be a hunting guide, so maybe I'll just do that. But I didn't realise that you can't just be a hunting guide. Yeah, it's actually not that easy. So, I think that the things that led me to that point was, so after those first deer hunting trips, like every year I was down deer hunting from then on. And it got to the point, like, the first big trip for me was me and my best mate, Rory Garden. We took a month off work. We took the whole April off work. I remember I think at that time in my life, I was working for an outdoor shop up in Whangarei selling hunting gear and fishing gear and stuff. So I remember made an agreement with the boss that the whole of April I was gone. So both of us we ended up
It's busiest time of year. Probably.
Yeah, well, it's probably one of them, but yeah. So we ended up taking April off, and we just basically boosted around the North Island, hunting all the public land, all the dockland, trying to get our first roaring stag. So up until that point, I had managed to get quite a nice fallow buck, croaking it in, and that was cool. But the red stags was still eluding me. I think I'd only shot that one hind, my first ever one. That was the only red deer I've ever got up to this point. So the whole plan of the trip was to try and get some roaring action. We'd never done it before, so that was our goals. And we travelled around. We hunted all over the place, and had one heck of a time, man. But so this is sort of where this is the interesting part of the story, because for this trip, I had saved up enough money, and I bought I think it was $420 or $460, something like that, video camera. And it was the old cassette, like mini DV cassette tapes that go on the side and you close the door. And, that sort of style one. I remember I bought it from Noel Leeming. But anyway, we bought this camera especially for this trip. Like, this was the whole point about it, because we wanted to film this adventure, this whole massive adventure we were about to embark on, a couple of, I don't know, 17-year-olds or something, like whatever we were, I can't remember. So we ended up going on this hunt, and we filmed every part of it. And we had the time of our lives, man. We had no idea how to raw stags in, but we learned pretty quickly how to do it, and how not to do it. So moral of the story, like that whole month, we didn't get a single stag. So we ended up shooting a red stag and a seeker stag on obviously different parts of the month, but we couldn't recover them, and we were devastated. But we learnt a lot of really good lessons as far as hunting, and proper backcountry hunting and stuff like that. I remember that was one of the big trips in my life, and I'll never forget that. And to have it all on video, on this video camera, man, that was like opened up a whole new level. That was like, man, this is cool. We were reliving the whole month, like years after that,
Yeah.
Just
Have you still got it?
I do. Yeah. I've still got it. I've got a pile of those old cassette tapes.
Yeah.
So the plan is I'd love to get them put onto not even DVD, put onto computer now,
Yeah.
And look back on it, man. I reckon I'd just be laughing the whole time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was cool. That was like a new step for me. This big game hunting which I'd been working towards for a long time, and now all of a sudden I've found a massive passion of filming it and getting it on video, and yeah, that was like the start of a new adventure for me without realizing at the time. So and then it sort of evolved from there. Like I got back up north, and I was doing a lot of pig hunting at that stage. Like I was still hunting with friends, and then eventually I ended up getting my own dogs, and I was still filming all these adventures, still videoing all these hunts, and then I ended up getting to a point where I was uploading them to YouTube, and they were just rough and raw. Just
YouTube would have been like new then.
Yeah, we're
too,
talking.
Like,
I think I uploaded my first video in 2010.
Yeah.
And I'd been filming probably a few years, 3 or 4 years prior to that.
Yeah.
But by the time I actually got into the editing and doing something with the footage and then uploading it to YouTube, it was 2010.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure 2010, maybe 2009, somewhere around then. So I started uploading these videos to YouTube, these hunting videos, and next thing, like, people were starting to enjoy watching them. Like, they're not fancy at all, but there's some good content. Like, it's
But you're a hell of a character too, though. Like, I watch your all your hunts now and your videos now. You're engaging. Like, it's easy to watch because you're a character. Like, listen to this podcast, you can tell a good story, and there's something to that, and that's not everybody has that. So obviously you've got a bit of a gift there that's helped you, no doubt, along the way, gain a bit of a following with it. But you carry on.
I think
You're never going to admit it yourself.
At the time, like, uploading these first videos to YouTube, like, I was pretty much uploading them just so that my mates who weren't, like, my mates spread out all over the country and some went overseas. So, like, to be able to send a link like, hey man, I got this real good boar the other day. Here's a video to it, to send that out to all my mates was like, yeah, this is cool, man. All the boys are starting to like get back on the hunts and like keeping up with the play, and everyone was enjoying watching it. But then what I didn't realize is that people outside of my friends group or the people I even knew started coming across these videos, and next thing the videos are starting to go quite big, like getting lots of views. One video in particular got just shy of 1 million views. It got to like 900 and something thousand views, and I remember
when was this?
This was probably 2000 and I think I was like 22 when this happened. So anyway, I remember actually Nikki Sinden, ADOS Addicted to Fishing.
Yeah. She
was working for another crowd, and she came and she wanted to do an article on me because I was apparently going to be one of the first 1 million view videos.
Yeah.
The video got to a certain point, and then it had so many negative comments from anti-hunters that YouTube restricted to R18, and they dropped a bunch of views off it. So then all of a sudden the article didn't happen.
Yeah.
But I remember at the time I was like, man, that hunt there was like a freaking cool hunt, and people all over the world have been liking it. But obviously some people that aren't hunters got onto it as well and sort of ruined it. But yeah, that was kind of like how it evolved. I sort of realized that this, me just filming these hunts and stuff that we're doing all the time and uploading it, people all over the world are actually they're actually enjoying watching it. And that wasn't the plan at the start, but it quickly became like, well, if I can make heaps of people stoked about these hunts, that's even better than just my close friend group.
Yeah, we do. We take advantage of what we have in our own backyard, don't we, though, as well? So, like, for us, we might think, like, hunt like that. Like, we still get fizzed off it and we're pumped, but, some of the people that watch these things with the reach of a platform like YouTube, they never, and will never probably ever will, get the opportunity to go for a hunt. So, for them to experience this such foreign thing, and when it's delivered in good detail, it's no wonder that people get, interested in it and hooked on it. Yeah. But then there is the flip side of it of, because it's hunting. You do get the pressure of, I suppose, the hate side of it as well. Yeah,
I think, I definitely think we don't realise how lucky we are to be in New Zealand, for one. And then, there's so many cool opportunities out there, eh? So, no wonder people all over the world are jumping on board to all the stuff we're doing, man. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you look at New Zealand as a whole, we've got mountains, we've got rivers, we've got oceans, and it's all so close.
Yeah.
It's a small country, and we've got it all, eh? So we are, you know, you must admit, we are freaking lucky to be here in New Zealand and to be able to go out and do all the stuff and then, you know, on my side of it, to be able to film it and produce it into something for other people all over the world to enjoy, man, that's pretty special to me, eh?
Yeah. Oh, you can see it. Like, your passion comes through, and the quality of the whole production of it. Definitely an easy watch, mate. You do a good job of it. I enjoy it anyway, and so do my boys.
No, that's good, man. I think, well, pretty much from then, like, looking forward. So with all these videos going up on YouTube, people were starting to contact me about, you know, can I come hunting with you? I want to come and join you on one of these hunts. So then I started taking guys out.
Is this still pig hunting?
This is mainly pig hunting. Yeah, mainly pig hunting. I think I'd done a heap of raw hunting and deer stalking. After that first big raw trip, every year we would take 3 weeks off in April. It wasn't the full 4 weeks, but we'd take somewhere 2 to 3, normally 3, and we'd go and do some big hunts. So from that first raw, every raw we would be going raw hunting and filming quite a bit of it. But most of the videos I was uploading at this point in my life were all pig hunting trips, and because that was, you know, I was right into that. I was right into working with the dogs and that sort of stuff. So people started asking me about, you know, Joe, I love watching your videos. Can I join you on a hunt? And I started getting a lot of these sort of comments and messages, and then eventually I sort of thought, well, yeah, maybe I could take some of these guys out, you know. I'll just keep doing what I'm doing, and they can just be there to experience it as well. So I ended up doing that, and then it sort of worked into being like a guided hunt, so to speak. I'd take out the odd American guy, even, you know, and it was quite cool. And then ultimately I still wanted to really get into the professional guiding, like the proper guiding. I mean, I was making a bit of money off this, but it wasn't at like a professional international level as I am now, or as I was trying to get to. But Gerald Fluidy, who's, you know, a real good friend of mine, part of the family, I remember he reached out one time, and we always try to figure out how we got in contact, but it's still, I don't know, but it was through Facebook in some ways, or through social media in some ways.
Social media,
yeah.
You know.
So we ended up, if you ever get Gerald on the podcast, you should probably ask him this. But there was some way anyway, and he got in contact with me, and we're talking for a long time and stuff. And then I remember one year, he asked me, he goes, "Hey Joe, do you want to come down and do a bit of guiding for me?" And I was like, you know, obviously I jumped at that chance. It's like, definitely, I'm there. So I remember that particular year, I had, what did I have on? I'd been invited down to hunt Fiordland with a friend, Rory Gentle. We had a wapiti block down there. So that was...
Had you done that before?
I'd never done a wapiti block,
Oh, yeah.
nah. So that was a big one for me. That's a big hunt, that one. So I was pretty excited about that. So my year started off at the wapiti block. I think early March I went down to the South Island, did a bit of pig hunting with Rory Gentle, and then we went and did the wapiti hunt, and that was cool. That was real cool. That was an awesome experience. We had a real good time, saw a lot of real good animals, and finished up from there, and then I went back up to the North Island, and that's when I was due to be there to guide for Gerald for the first time. So I remember, I turned up there and you know, got to meet them in person and meet everyone. And the clients turned up and got to meet them, and all was cool, all was good. And my first client was a guy called Rob, bow hunter from Hawaii. He's actually a sports fishing captain in Hawaii.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so he just takes guys marlin fishing all the time. So he was my guy. So me and Rob went out for these hunts, and I remember we had. Yeah, we were looking for a black fallow buck. That was his target animal, and we came across a nice big sort of common colour buck, and we ended up getting that with the bow. It was cool, real good hunt. And then anyway, we're back onto the target of this black buck. So I remember we managed to find some in the binoculars. I think we're hunting down sort of Wanganui area, right up in the hill country there, and I remember getting Rob set up in this area, and there was these black bucks walking up this ridge line, and they ended up coming into sort of bow range 40 yards because I knew, I didn't know, but I figured where they were going to cross, so we got set up and waited. And then anyway, Rob ended up having an arrow knocked and ready, and the buck came into the zone, and we stopped it, and next thing arrows flying, and yeah, unfortunately it was a bad hit. So we spent a couple of days trying to find that buck, but anyway, me and Rob became pretty close, like quite good mates after this, and we did a lot of hunting, and over the years, like I think I might have been guiding Rob last year, but every year Rob generally comes back and we do a hunt together.
Yeah.
But he was my first client with J.E.Wilds.
Yeah.
So this whole experience was my first time hunting with J.E.Wilds and wildside hunting safaris, and basically that was sort of the Kickstarter to get me into the international side of it, to where I am now. So yeah, without that opportunity from J.E.Wilds, who knows where I'd be now? I could be doing something similar, but definitely J.E.Wilds has been basically the stepping stone I needed to get to where my childhood dream was to become a professional hunting guide, man. So
pretty cool.
I've been with Wildside ever since. I think it was like 6 years or something. And then that was 6 awesome years, man, guiding, specializing in bow hunting, doing some amazing hunts, meeting all sorts of different people, getting the opportunity to go over to America and do the shows, the big trade shows, just like the field days, but for hunting and fishing, well, mainly just hunting. So you imagine like a field day sized event, but for hunting. everyone and anyone and everyone that's to do with the international hunting is there. So it's like a hunter's paradise, cool. Man. It's an experience, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
So me and J.E.Wilds, we did a couple of shows together, and his son Joe Flutie, who's like a brother to me. Catherine, my partner, she came over this year with us, so there's a team of us. So through J.E.Wilds, I got a lot of cool experiences and I learned a lot.
Are you and Joe similar age?
Joe is 5 or 6 years younger than me.
Oh, yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll probably correct me.
Yeah.
He's probably swearing right now. Anyway, he's a bit younger than me.
Yep.
Yeah. But me and him are pretty tight. We're like brothers. We do a lot together.
He features a bit on your
definitely.
on your social media channels.
Yep, and a lot of the YouTube videos I'm trying to find someone that wants me to video them, and he ends up always being the guy that draws the short straw. So you've probably seen him on a few videos.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and I guess like that's pretty much a big chunk of my my guiding side of it. But then last year I got offered a full-time camera role. So over the past probably 4 or 5 years, the camera side, what I've been doing, the video side has been it's been starting to overtake the guiding.
Yeah.
So it's always been there, like, we talk about the early experiences when I bought that first camera. It's always been there and I've always been doing it. But it's been mainly in the background. And probably the last 4 or 5 years, it's been slowly building in the background more and more, and it's been starting to become my main passion. So, this was starting to get noticed. Like, videos I was making and stuff like that were starting to get noticed by a few people. And last year, Venator Cardrona Safaris actually offered me a full-time camera position, head of photography for them, filming hunts, getting marketing content, just being the guy, the camera guy, in-house camera guy that was capturing all the stuff. So, this was obviously a pretty big decision on my point of view, because I was working with my family pretty much. And then, loving what I was doing, working with the Fluities, part of the family and stuff like that. And then, getting this opportunity that was pretty good, like a nice opportunity. And it was down a different path, down the camera side. So I remember talking to J.E.Wilds and Brenda about it for quite a bit. And then talking to my family back up north. And we're, big decisions had to be made, man. But I ended up deciding to take the job, and then this 2020 was the first year that I was going to be full time running the cameras for Venator. So I got down there and we did our we did probably not a couple of months, maybe a month and a half of filming hunts and stuff like that, and then obviously COVID hit. So that pretty much put a stop to it. But I guess one thing as well that I will say is that to finish my time with Wildside, I was booked out to go back up to Gerald and team at Wildside in the North Island and do a couple more guided hunts to finish my time. So right up until the day of lockdown, what was that, March the 14th or something?
Yeah, I think it was
you were flying back from overseas.
Yeah.
So right up until that day, I was actually guiding clients for Wildside, and that was just finishing off my guiding with them, you know.
Yeah.
So right up until lockdown, I was hunting, and it was pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool, and it was a real good hunt. We had some real good guys in camp, a good family, who I've become pretty good friends with now. I still talk to them now. They're from America, and then that was sort of to finish up my time with Wildside as far as working with them, you know, working for them. And then I managed to fly back down to the South Island, and then for lockdown I was down and I had one of the Venator luxury lodges. I guess I was looking after the place.
Caretaker.
I was stuck there all by myself. Yeah, man. So that's kind of, I don't know. I suppose that's a fast version of my.
Yeah. Well, we'll dive into that a little bit more because, you know, there's that awesome video you done on Wild Boy, which was the wild stag that got into Wildside, and I understand there's a wicked story to that stag, and you captured, I suppose, the hunt part of it like really well, and I'll definitely put it in the show notes, so if you haven't seen it you can see it. But do you want to share the story of that stag?
I'd love to.
Yeah.
I'd love to. Yeah. So I've
been hanging out for this.
Yeah. So, all right, to anyone listening, this is so Wildside Hunting Safaris on one of their North Island hunting properties. It's a high fence property. It's got a boundary fence around it. In the property itself, 14 or 15 years ago, there was a release of deer. They've been let go into the property 14, 15 years ago, and since then they've been left to their own device to breed and do their own thing. Basically, act as wild animals would, but they're in this big hunting area. So although it's got a boundary fence around it, it's surrounding the property is public land, forest, thick forest, and I remember every now and again we get wild deer getting through the fence and coming into the property. So I remember this one occasion. There's this Gerald and I ended up coming across some signs of this young, scrubby little 8-point wild stag that somehow had got into the property, and now he's in with all these, you know, all the wild side animals and stuff like that, and he's got this bit of a paradise to live in, but you know, lots of girls around and all that sort of stuff. And then he sort of stayed in there, and I think Joe Fluity, Gerald's son, he got the idea that he wanted to try and hunt the stag, and it's easier said than done, I suppose. It's a big enough property with a lot of bush on it, and it's pretty hard going. And so every time Joe would try to go out there and try to find the stag, he just couldn't do it. Like he couldn't find it. It was just eluding him most of the time, and it just wasn't working for him. So the funny thing is that me and Gerald at the time would be guiding. You know, we'd be guiding clients. So like Gerald would have his group of clients, and then I'll be assigned my group of clients. So we're hunting different parts of the property. But generally, you know, once every couple of days or whatever it might be, one of us would see the stag that we nicknamed Wild Boy, you know. And he's a scrubby little thing. Like, he's this little young stag that's just out of place, you know. And me and Gerald would see him and we'd tell Joe, and Joe would be like, oh man, I can't find him, eh? Like, every time he tried to find him, he wouldn't be able to do it. So it's real funny. It was like a little inside joke. So this ended up going on for a while, and Joe couldn't quite get it done, sort of thing. Joe's a good hunter, but you know, it just wasn't working out for him. So a couple of years went by, and this stag, every year this stag would, you know, obviously he was maturing and he was growing up. So every year we'd end up seeing him again, and he's starting to look, you know, over years he's starting to look like quite a nice stag. You know, he's growing out and maturing. And I remember, so Joe's still trying to get him. And we're still seeing him, we're still keeping an eye on him, patting him and stuff. But it came to the point where me and Joe actually decided that, man, we should probably try and film this stag, like try and make a video of the hunt of the stag, because it was up until this point. There's a couple of years of experience with him, and you know he's outsmarting us and all that sort of stuff. So we thought, man, there's a bit of history here. Let's try and film the hunt of the stag. So and Joe set out there with the bow, and Joe was going to try and get him with the bow, and it was probably confusing people with the two Joes, but
Nah, you're right.
yeah. But anyway, so Joe Fluidy
He's
went
not
out with the
talking
bow.
about himself in third person.
And I remember it was an evening. It was a really nice evening, and at this point, the Wild Boy stag had become dominant. Like, he was mature. Man, I can't remember. This might be 4 years after he first got in. Like, he's matured in there. He's become aggressive and dominant. There's good food, so he's grown into a really nice stag, real nice stag. Like, I think it was 14 points. So
Was there anything that gave him away? Like, when you got to that mature point, and he's amongst these other stags, does he look like 14 points? It's a big stag.
Yeah, he's still a big stag. Like, the stags that are in the property, the original release was very high quality genetics, so there is a lot of big stags running around in there.
Is there any 14 pointers?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there's a lot of stags similar to him.
Yeah.
But then there's also a lot of stags that are bigger than him.
Yeah.
But the thing that gave him away is that he looks like a public land stag, and if you're looking at them body wise, there's a difference.
Yeah.
But then also he had a real recognisable roar, so we could hear his roar over other stags' roars.
Oh yeah.
Because every stag's got a different roar.
Yeah.
So when you're out there enough, you can actually learn the different roars, and if you're listening across a big series of valleys and you hear all these different roars, if you've had an experience with those stags before, you can think, oh yeah, that's that 16 pointer, or that's,
Yeah.
So they all sound different. I suppose it's just like us with our voices.
Yeah.
So over the years, we kind of got used to the way he sounded.
Yeah.
And then Gerald and I were guiding full time, so we were always in there, and every now and again we'd see him, and this particular year, which was actually last year, 2019, I think it was, he ended up being dominant enough to hold hinds, so he had females with him. So he was holding a nice group of hinds in a particular area, a particular basin that was surrounded by bush, and he was out in a few of the clearings in amongst the bush, like a real prime spot, real cool spot. And so we kind of knew where he was roughly hanging. And anyway, so me and Joe Fluidy, we decided that, this is a good evening. We were in between clients, like it was a Saturday or a Sunday or something like that, and the next client group was arriving on the Monday, so we had a couple of days to get to burn to do our own thing. And it was the peak of the raw. It was like April. Stags were going hard. It was an awesome time. So I remember we ended up sort of making this plan, and we got the wind right, and our destination was this basin, Wild Boys Basin. And I remember getting in there, and it was pretty late in the evening. Like, the sun was on its way down. Like, the shadows were long. It was that real golden light feel. That real nice prime time. The birds were just going absolutely ballistic because it's amazing bird life in this area. And we managed to get into a zone, and then we could hear stag roaring down below in the valley in the bush, and it sounded like our stag. We're like, this could be on here. So we waited there. I remember we sat there and we were like overlooking the valley, and eventually we saw some antlers through the trees. And sure enough, it's Wild Boy, and he's there, and he's got some hinds. 2 hinds, or a hind and a yearling it was. And so we made a big plan, and after a long time we sort of figured out that we could probably approach him in this direction, and we did, and we got in there, got in nice and close, real close, and we're just tucked up on the bush edge, and all this is on the video. You would have seen that, and we're sort of hiding up against the trees, the sun's sort of coming across us, but he's just over this brow in this little valley, and we could just see him feeding, and his hind and his yearling are there too. And the wind's perfect as well. And eventually his hind and his yearling start coming out, and they cross through this piece of bush, and then they break out onto our side. And then he gets all sort of worked up, and he tries to chase them around to herd them back to where he was. And then, all this commotion going on, it ended up leading to him actually running right into 8 yards of us. 8 yards. And me and Joe are like pinned against the bush. I remember Joe had an arrow knocked, we were all ready. And he ended up chasing him right in, and he stopped at 8 yards, and Joe was at full draw, and he let strip. And then, arrow struck right in the chest at 8 yards, and we thought, man, we're in. This is it.
Got him.
Good. So Joe was fizzing. Joe was absolutely over the moon, man. And so was I.
Yeah.
So anyway, we gave it a bit of time. We gave things time to settle, and then we started to blood track him.
Which is a common thing to do with bow hunting,
Yeah.
eh? Like you give them a bit of time.
Definitely give them time.
Yep.
No matter how good that shot was, you generally want to give them more time than not enough for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, because ideally you want them to be, you want them to die without having to push them around. If you walk up on an animal that's been bow shot and he's not dead,
Yeah.
he normally gets up and runs further, and
Yeah.
you basically want just leave them alone. Come back a couple of hours later.
Yeah.
So we started blood tracking them, and we were following small drops of blood, not good blood at all. We found the arrow. There's probably like 20 centimeters penetration, something like that, which is not much. At that range, we should be getting a full pass through.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, sort of the spirits dropped, and we're like, let's hope. So we started blood tracking him, and the blood was running out. It was getting thinner and thinner, and then we were running out of daylight, man. So we ended up deciding to back out of there, not pushing it any further. We didn't want to push him on. If he was still alive, we didn't want to keep busting him out and pushing him on. So we backed out, and we came back in the morning. Me and Joe and Gerald joined us for the recovery, and we came back in and we started tracking him again. And there'd been a bit of rain overnight, and it was still drizzling in the morning, so the blood was real hard to find. And we probably spent half a day tracking him and finding like little bits of sign and stuff. But eventually we lost the trail altogether. So devastating.
Yeah.
We were devastated, and we weren't sure. Like, is he? Has he died somewhere where we can't find him, or is he still alive? We didn't know.
Yeah.
So she was it was a pretty gutting moment in camp, as you can imagine.
Yeah. Especially after that big,
Yeah.
Like,
Well, there's years building up to this.
Yeah.
Like, there's years of experiences with Joe, Joe especially. So it's not just this one hunt.
yeah.
There's a lot of history, and yeah. So anyway, like, I think it was a few days later, maybe a week later, I was due to go down to Wanaka, and I was organised to do a few filmed hunts for Venator.
Yep.
So it's basically like, it turns out it was probably more like a trial period for me, for them to figure out who I am and what I'm like. So I didn't know that at the time, obviously, but I went down and did the filming. Had a good time with the boys down there. It was great. And then I remember when I was down there, I think I was there for probably a month and a half. I get a phone call from Joe and Gerald, and they were like, "You are not going to believe this, man." And I was like, "What are you talking about? Tell me." And they said this evening they were out on the property, and they were just scouting for deer and stuff like that, and they looked across a valley, and on the bush edge they saw some deer walking out.
Yeah.
And then so they put the binoculars up on these deer, and next thing they identify one, like, that's freaking Wild Boy. So Wild Boy was alive, and he was perfectly healthy.
Yeah.
Wasn't limping, didn't show any signs of a wound or nothing. He was perfectly healthy.
Yeah.
So he was feeding on the edge of this big bush area. So anyway, that was the plan. Like, all right, I'm just about finished up in Wanaka with Venator.
Yeah.
As soon as I get back up there, we're going to go and see if we can
Yeah.
have a go at him.
Yeah.
So that was what we were up to. So I remember getting back up there, and the next evening, that was fine weather and good weather. Me and Joe decided to go out and have a round 2. Well, I should say round 20 probably by now, but round 2 as far as me and him go trying to get the film done.
Yeah.
And man, that's good, eh?
Yeah. There's more in the fridge too.
Fog City.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I remember it was evening. It was probably early evening. We got set up out there, and we were just sort of waiting in the area where they'd seen him, and just waiting for that real good evening time to come along. We wanted to be set up ready. And then man, as the shadows started to grow longer, and that good evening primetime feel started setting in, we positioned ourselves in the spot that we wanted to be, in the zone. And I remember I was actually filming like I'd been filming all sorts of stuff, the build up to this point, and then I remember at the time I was literally filming like some little B-roll section, like I was filming some trees or I was filming something behind us, just some fill-in footage. And as I was doing that, I heard Joe sort of whisper like, bro, bro, bro. And I turned around, like camera still rolling, spun around and panned onto Joe, and he'd seen stags come out of the bush.
Yeah.
So we're like, yeah, here we go. And he gets the binoculars up on the stags and he's like studying them.
Yeah.
And yeah, wild boy's in with them.
Yeah.
So the stag, the stag we're looking for is in with this group of stags. So this is obviously June or July. I think it might be June. So it's, it's post-rut. It's after the raw. All the stags are back in their bachelor groups. They're all mates again.
Yeah.
They're trying to build up condition after the raw, trying to gain all that condition they lost. So so we're watching these stags and we're like, we're figuring out like where are they going, what's their movements, and they come out of the bush and they were starting to feed into this clearing, and it looked like they were just going to be happy feeding on this grass clearing, probably through till dark kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we made a plan and we ended up getting up pretty close to it. Like, I'll go into a bit more detail. We dropped down into a basin below us and we snuck along this bush edge, and then we got up onto this little knob and we could just sort of see tops of antlers through the binoculars. And the problem was, with the way the wind was going, there was only one approach, and that was actually to cut across the clearing straight to them.
Yeah.
So we couldn't go around the bush either side of the clearing. Our only approach was to go through the clearing. We were lucky enough that the stags were just at the far end of the clearing, but just over a little brow, so we could see the tops of their antlers and their heads and their neck and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the benefit of that is that if we got down onto our hands and knees and crawled, we could crawl right up to, within range of the stags without them seeing us because of that little hump at the end of the clearing. So yeah, that was our approach, and it was a pretty risky maneuver for what we were trying to do, but we didn't have any other options. So here we go, like 130 something, 150, whatever it was, yards worth of belly crawling or hands and knees,
Yeah.
And it felt like
you got a big camera, you have cameras and all sorts of
that's right,
gear with you.
So Joe's got
with a bow wouldn't be easy, would it?
Nah, that's right. So Joe's got his bow, got his hunting gear, and I've got my big camera set up as well and all that. So I'm filming Joe as we're crawling along. So you've seen the video. You can see me crawling along and I'm holding the camera with one hand.
Yeah.
It's quite a hard case, but it's quite cool footage, eh?
Yeah.
And it's all just as it was happening. It's run and gun sort of style. So anyway, we ended up getting up to a point, base of these big trees. So we crawled up to these trees, and then I remember Joe peering around, and he ranged the tops of their antlers, and I think it was like, man, it's people that watch the video will be able to they'll be able to get the details, but I think it was like 50 something yards, or it was pretty far shot. So the next plan was we needed to get to the next block of trees, which would have cut the distance in half. So that was another crawling mission. We got up there and we got into position, and now we're like in the zone of the deer, and deer are incredibly sharp, especially these deer, because these deer get hunted every day through the season. These deer are freaking nuts. So anyway, I remember we got to these next trees, and we're calming down, we're like setting up, and we're hidden by the big trunks of the trees, and the deer are actually, by now they're bedded down. So they're bedded down in the grass. They've had a little feed, and now they're bedded down for a little while. A little bit of drizzle starting to come down, a little bit of rain, but all's good, wind's good, everything's good. Birds are going nuts, like real nice evening. So I remember Joe getting the rangefinder out again, and he peeking around the edge of the tree and like just ranging the edge of the deer without showing himself, kind of thing. And yeah, now they were in range, but they're bedded down and stuff like that. So we couldn't take a shot where they were. We needed to wait for something to happen. But what we didn't realise is that one of the stags actually caught a little bit of movement. It might have been Joe's elbow or his shoulder or something. One of the deer caught a bit of movement behind the trunk because we're so close. And then so next thing, the deer are standing up and they're looking over towards us. And we couldn't do nothing about it. So Joe's like, I remember Joe saying, you know, they're up or something, they're standing up, they're getting up. Joe knocked an arrow, he was all ready, and then the deer figured something was wrong. They didn't know what we were or where we were or anything like that, but they knew something was wrong. They knew there was a bit of movement there, so they didn't feel comfortable. So they started moving off to the left. They were moving off pretty quick, but obviously still being unaware of what we were pretty confident they were going to give us a shot. You know, normally deer would run so fast, stop, turn around, and have a look at you.
Yeah.
So we were ready for that. So I remember Joe said, you know, he was all excited. Here we go, like whispering to me. So I'm rolling the camera. Joe's sort of standing out. He draws back like this, and the stags run out to the left, and they stop and they turn around and look at us. And I think it's like 40 to 50 yards or something. Like you watch the video, you'll get the details. But yeah, they stop within range at a standing broadside shot, pretty good shot. Joe was full draw, ready to go. As soon as they stop, he just lets one strip.
Yeah.
And that arrow just sails towards our wild boy stag, you know, sails right towards our stag, and you can see the luminoc, the lighted knock on the end of the thing.
Yeah.
And it's just like floating through the air, and then it just boom, over top of the stag's back. Missed the stag completely. And me and Joe are just like, you're freaking joking me. Like, you know, what you see on camera, there's a lot more that goes down behind scenes, but you know, there's a few swear words and stuff.
Yeah, we didn't want it to go R18 and get taken
No,
down
that's
by
right.
YouTube again.
No, that's right. So I think I ended up capturing some footage of Joe, like pure emotion. Like he was on his elbows on the trunk of the tree, and he was like just about crying. You know, like we were devastated after. It might have been like a 2-hour stalk to get to that point, and then to have a miss like that.
Plus the other 20.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Attempts.
So then to have a big miss like that, it was like, yeah, I could see. Like I was gutted. I was like, oh no, but you know, Joe was devastated. So anyway, I remember after a bit, like, you know, bit of bromance, you know, like, come on, bro, we got to, you know, let's carry on. And I remember we finally got up and we started heading over to collect the arrow, and then you know, we didn't know if we were going to find the arrow or anything, but might as well go and have a look. So then we start walking over to the arrow, and like, we're probably going to give away a lot of the story, but we'll just keep going.
Yeah, it's alright.
So this is where it gets interesting. If you're still listening to this podcast, man, this is where it gets interesting. So we're walking over to this arrow, and at this point, I'm not even filming. I'm like, oh, Joe, you need to get better at archery, you woman slacker. But anyway, we get over there, and I remember Joe looking down at this arrow, and he's just gasps pretty much. And next thing you'll see on the video, the arrow turns out to be soaked in blood, covered in blood, full pass through. The arrow, what we thought, the arrow looked like it went over the top of the back of the stag, but it didn't. It dropped down and went straight through the pocket of the stag, in the vitals, clean pass through and out the other side. It was a mind trick.
Yeah.
We don't know what happened, but
even when you look at the footage,
it's like, ridiculous, man. Yeah. It must just be. Yeah, it's hard to explain, but it must just be.
That must be the angle.
Must be the angle, man, because we were both 100% certain that he'd missed. Yeah. Both of us.
We very educated.
Well, and the other thing is, we were
for a job. Before
we went over to the arrow, man, we were like replaying the video, like rewinding,
yeah.
And it looked like a miss every time.
Yeah.
So we were 100% sure that he missed, but we get over there and that arrow is absolutely drenched in blood. Like, you don't get a better looking, you know, arrow than that. So yeah, all of a sudden we're like, whoa. The voice goes low, you know. We're like, okay, we need to be serious here.
Where is he?
Yeah. So we're like, man, this has like changed everything big time. So yeah, I remember like we waited a little while and we like regained everything. Like we got back our composure, and then we managed to get to a point where we could like overlook the valley, because the way the stags ran, because obviously he ran off with the other stags, looked unharmed and all that. So they ran in a certain direction. So we went over in that direction so we could look over the large basin they were in. It was like an open grassy basin surrounded by forest. So we looked over there just in hope that we were going to see them. And, you know, with bow hunting, you're basically stealth. So there's no gunshot. There's a bow going off, but there's a lot of stealth to it. So often deer don't even know what's happened. If they haven't smelt you, or if they haven't properly seen you, with a bow going off, often they still don't really know what's happened. It's enough to spook them, but they're still like, well, for example, if they smell you, they're gone. They're not going to come back at all. They're not going to give you another chance. But because we had the wind right and everything like that, all they heard was the bow go off, and they didn't know what had happened. It's sort of like we were hoping that we were going to see them again, put it that way. And anyway, we're looking into this basin, and sure enough, that group of stags are standing on the other side of the basin, like looking over in our direction, probably thinking, what the heck was that? What just happened? And me and Joe are like watching them. Joe was looking at them through the binoculars, and he couldn't see Wild Boy. Wild Boy wasn't in with these other stags. So, that's a good sign right there.
Yeah.
And then after a little while, we ended up hearing, massive crash, like huge crash, just boom, crash, antlers through trees and stuff down in that direction. And those other stags got such a fright, they jumped and ran off.
Oh, yeah.
So I remember Joe turning around to me, and he was like, he was fizzing, amped on it. He's like, did you hear that? Did you hear that? Yeah, so that right there is a good sign. That's what you want to hear when you're bow hunting, kind of thing. That's an animal going down, and that's not just push through the bush down. That's out of control down.
Yeah.
So
that's another amazing thing with deer though, eh? Like it still blows my mind. You can go in on a big stag, like in the middle of the roar or whatever, and what seems to be like extremely tight bush, and they're big, and they got these big antlers and they're big bodies, and they take off and they make bugger all sound.
Yeah. It's amazing.
It's amazing what they can.
Yep, we've seen them, and I've got some really good footage of them too. The big stags, when they're going through that tight stuff, they know their own spatial, like their spatial awareness is amazing.
Yeah, they
know exactly where those antlers are, so they're weaving their way through these trees.
Yeah,
and if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, it would have been hard to believe. But exactly, man, exactly what you're saying. They can be extremely quiet for such a big animal. Yeah, with such a massive headgear,
Yeah.
So it's pretty impressive, man.
Yeah.
But I remember, so once we heard this crash, me and Joe, we waited quite a while, and then we decided, let's start tracking our way down towards it. We heard the crash, and we knew which general vicinity it was, but obviously we didn't know exactly where. So we still wanted to track our way to it, hopefully tracking a blood trail, But we ran out of daylight. It got dark before we could actually get to it. So we pulled pin, we backed out of there nice and quietly, and it was a pretty long night, man. Like we were pretty excited, as you'd imagine. Yeah. But we were also pretty anxious.
Yeah.
So in the morning, the three of us went out. Gerald joined in, and we started off where we had left off the night before, and got onto some good tracks, good blood. No, actually not good blood. I think we found the odd drop, but good tracks. Yeah. Good identifiable tracks.
Yeah, when you say good tracks, are they like in a different pattern, like looks like he's skidding?
Yep. So generally an animal like that's wounded or a good bow shot kind of thing will be running just full sprint and leaving heavy impressions in the ground.
Oh yeah.
You can definitely, like, I think on the video Gerald probably talks about it.
Yeah.
But a good way to tell, like, if there was a group of stags, he was in that group. Now all the stags are running as per normal, but he's running like it's basically he's dead on his feet almost, without being without sounding cruel.
Yeah.
He's leaving deep impressions because he's just running. It's just his muscle memory kind of thing, basically. So he's running deep impressions, and you can see that. You can see the difference in the tracks, in the ground, in the mud. And eventually it got to a point where he peeled off. He sort of took the easy route straight ahead, and the other stags wound their way through another more difficult path. So you could see that, he's peeled away from the mob. He's he's going down. So we were following these tracks, and then I remember the patch of bush that we ended up in was right where we heard the big crash the night before. Like, it was in that direction. So we're pretty hopeful at this point, as you can imagine. and we're tracking him through the bush. You know, it went on for quite a while. Like, he made it a little way, but eventually Joe finds him.
Yeah.
And there he is, man. He's just tucked up in this bush. Done. That was it. So Joe was yelling and screaming.
Yeah.
We all
Did he
were.
find him first?
Yeah, Joe found him first. Yeah. Joe was yelling and screaming and yahooing him, and we all were, man, because, you know, we were equally as stoked as he was.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I imagine the banter that would have been flying around it though when you and Gerald are out there on these guided hunts, and then you come back, oh, I've seen him again today.
And that's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was. And Joe would be like, where was he? We'd tell him where we'd seen him. And Joe would go out there and he'd be hunting the whole evening right till dark or whatever. You know, and he'd never see him. Or if he did see him, he'd never get a shot at him, you know?
Yeah. And he was always after him with the bow.
Well, yeah, it started off with the rifle.
Yeah.
And then it became a bow thing. Like, I don't know, probably like a couple of years into it, Joe started just thinking, well, actually, nah, I want to try and get him with the bow because it's, you know, bow hunting is basically, it's very challenging but very rewarding, you know. It's close combat. You got to be really on the game to get it done, really on your ball. So yeah, Joe sort of made the personal rule that if he's going to get the stag, he wants to get it with a bow. It's going to mean a lot to him. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of how it led to the point we're at now. Yeah. So yeah, I remember we set him up. We got some real cool photos, a bit of video. Joe did a bit of talking for the camera, and then and then we head skinned him and you know, butchered him up out there and all that sort of stuff. So I guess to finish it off, Joe's got that Pete Livesey. He mounted him for him, so Joe's got the stag on the wall. Looks really good. Yeah.
It's a beautiful head.
Amazing head, man. Yeah, really nice head.
To think that he was a scruffy
little 8-pointer, but you know, young stag, so you'd expect it, but scruffy little 8-pointer. But it just goes to show that if you let an animal mature, there's a pretty high chance that, you know, if there's good food around, and you let them age, then there's a good chance that you can get some pretty good trophy potential out of them, no matter where they are.
Yeah, is it mainly the food, you reckon?
Yeah, food's the biggest part of it.
Yeah.
But age is obviously, they need age as well. Yeah. But yeah, the property has good food. There's food plots put in and stuff like that. So he's going to get better food there than he would in the public land that he came from. Yeah. So he obviously, his potential to become as big as he was, he probably wouldn't have got that in the public land. Yeah. But yeah, it just goes to show that, you know, a bit of good tucker goes a long way. In an animal. So
he must have had some good hidings in the raw when he was a little
fella.
Well,
he sort
probably kept to himself.
Yeah, he kept to himself, and then he, like, often in his early days, Gerald and I would see him mobbed up with you know, spikers and young stags.
Yeah.
So he sort of like matched his age group.
Yeah.
But then as he became dominant, he was actually controlling hinds, and the fact that he was controlling hinds meant that he had asserted dominance. And you know, some of these other stags in there, they wouldn't let him just hold hinds without him being pretty tough. So he must have had a few good fights. Yeah. So that story there, man, like, that was probably a pretty long-winded story, but
that's good. That's how I like them.
But anyway, like,
give me the details.
anyone listening to that story, like, if you were to ask me tomorrow, any day of the week, what my highlight hunting experience would be, you know, that one there's always going to stand out. And the best thing about it is we've got both of those experiences on video. So, you know, I can relive that forever. Me and Joe, we could watch that forever. Gerald, you know, it's always going to be there. So that's such a special hunt for us, man.
Yeah, and now everyone that's listening to this will watch it too. No?
Well, yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting if some people get the bug out, like, oh man, I better go and watch that.
Yeah.
But it is like it's pretty well laid out. So if you do decide to watch it, it's a good watch.
Yeah.
Make sure you've got good audio. That's all I say. Take the full experience.
Yeah, definitely. Don't watch it on your phone. You can get it on your TV.
TV surround sound.
Yeah.
Put it up in the cinema in your local city.
Yeah.
No, it's good though. It's a good watch. Yeah. And I think if you do watch it, you'll probably feel a bit of that emotion come through. Like, you'll see, it's not just your hunting episode like you'd see on TV. It's something slightly different. So the viewers generally feel they feel like they feel the emotion and the tension in the air. So it's quite cool.
But that's something you do well with your videos too. You know, your recent ones that you've done up in the high country and down in the South Island there. Those, you know, those self-film solo missions with you and Boise, your dog, like those. That's something that does come across well. It's like you tell that story and that journey. Like, is that a big focus for you when you're doing those films?
Yeah, definitely, man.
Yeah,
definitely.
to get that emotion in it.
Yep, definitely. Yep. I really like to build up, like, and this goes back to the start of the podcast, man. Talking about the journey rather than the kill.
Yeah.
The journey is a big part of it, massive part of it. So I like to build the emotion and portray the emotion and how it actually is, and build that journey, man, rather than just focus on the kill.
Yeah.
So yeah, like with that series you're talking about, like after COVID finished this year, and once I finished up with Venator, I had some time to burn. And it's kind of like the first time where I've really had a dedicated time period where I can go out and do my own hunts. And yeah, this is something that I don't normally do. Normally I've got clients with me or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I had some time where I could go and do my own hunts. So I ended up coming up with a plan where I wanted to, 2020, I wanted to get, before the summer hits, I wanted to get a big stag. Like, when I say big, I mean an old, mature, nice looking stag. I wanted to get a bull tar, a mature bull, and I wanted to get a nice, mature buck chamois. Those were sort of my goals for the season. And I wanted to capture all that on film, and I wanted to do that in just me, like just solo, no one else in the camera, just me and my experience with my dog, if he could come. And I wanted to capture that on film in a way that the viewer that was watching it felt like he was there with me.
Yeah.
Like I planned to include the viewer in the decisions, like tell them why I'm making that decision, why I'm going down that ridge, while I'm heading up this river. I wanted them to feel like it was a virtual hunt, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that was sort of like my plan, and it was something I've been thinking about for a while, but it ended up happening, man. I had the time to do it, so yeah.
Like, there's always a silver lining, to things. That's what this podcast came about because of COVID. It's amazing when you can look at the old glass half full versus half empty, and you can plan or use that opportunity, I guess. That's probably the best way to put it, Yep. Because it was an opportunity for you to be able to create something that you wanted to do. Yeah. And you had the time to focus on it.
Yeah, definitely, man. And like growing up, speaking of the start of this podcast again, growing up, I was dreaming about doing these big game hunts, So to finally have the time to go back and do them for myself, like I love guiding people on hunts. I really, really love that. But to go and do hunts for myself was like something that I'd almost forgotten how to do, man.
Yeah, well, when you shot that stag in the series, how long had it been since you pulled the trigger?
I think 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years since I shot another stag, 10 years since I shot a stag. So, and I don't know how many I'd guided, in between there and then. Hundreds probably, I don't know. But a lot of stags in between there and then with working with Gerald and Venator and then also the other guiding that I was doing before that. So, to go out and get one for myself, man, that was like, this is good fun. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So that's a cool series, man. I've had really good feedback on that series. Like the comments and the messages I'm getting from it and views. Like it's getting lots of views and people are really enjoying it. And the feedback I've had has been amazing. Yeah. So the feedback I've had has been huge. Like one comment that actually stands out pretty big time is it's quite, I don't know, it's a pretty special one actually. The guy commented, and he's actually in a wheelchair, motorbike accident. He used to be a mad dog hunter. I think he's from America. Yeah. He commented on the stag hunt videos, the first 2 installments of the series. And he told me, he said in the comment that he's paraplegic. He can't go out and do these hunts anymore, even though he'd love to. Yeah. So he said to be able to live through the video was really good. Like
Yeah.
he really felt good and enjoyed living through the video. So that was like right there,
That's quite a
reading that
powerful
comment,
thing, man.
Reading that
Right.
comment, I was like, that's exactly where I'm trying to go with this.
Yeah.
I want people that can't get out there, maybe they don't have the means or they...
Well, we talked about it before, like that reach of YouTube. There's people get to watch it that will never have the opportunity
That's right.
to be able to hunt.
Yeah, that's right, man.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like where I was aiming for that series. And
Yeah.
like for the listeners that are listening at the moment, if you're on my YouTube channel, the last sort of probably... I think currently as we're doing this podcast, there's probably 7 episodes on there, but there's going to be more in the next couple of weeks. Those last episodes are all in this little series that we're talking about. This little series that finished after COVID. Oh, that started after COVID, I should say.
Mm.
So yeah, man, like the whole plan was to like make a video that's not your typical hunting TV show like we're all used to, but to make something that's slightly more engaging and more personal almost, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I thought I'd try it.
Yeah.
And it's all solo, all self-filmed wilderness hunts, you know, like most of them are 8-day hunts, 9-day hunts where I'm just in the west coast of New Zealand by myself with my dog for long periods of time. Amazing hunts, like had some awesome experiences. So yeah, that sort of, with that I ended up being able to make quite a cool little series that people were loving, man.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool.
Series.
It's awesome when you can, like, no doubt for you, it must be awesome that you had this vision of what you wanted to do and the direction you wanted to take it, that you get the feedback that you're actually delivering that. Like, that must be extremely satisfying for you.
Yeah, it is, to be honest, yeah. Like, I have replied to every single comment, and I think the videos are getting, you know, probably 200 to 400 comments. I've replied to every single one of them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if people take the time to comment on the video and say something about it, then I'm happy as to say something back. So people have been really enjoying that little interaction.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of people are asking about gear and stuff like that, and I'm just so stoked to be able to make people excited about watching hunting and living through those hunts with me. That's what's sort of making me do it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's cool, man. It's very cool. Do you want another beer?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so we'll tuck into the Raglan Roast IPA now. Yeah, a little bit different, eh?
Different, man. I like it. I think if I had to pick, I would prefer the other one, but this is still a good drop, man.
Yeah. Nah, it's this is, I think with this you kind of, I don't know, you might have to start on it over, not sure.
It's pretty strong flavour. Strong flavour is quite good.
Yeah,
yeah.
I like it because I just love coffee, but that's my favourite one they do. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah.
Maybe ask me at the end of the bottle.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I guess if you're listening to this podcast and you jump over to the videos, drop a comment. Tell us you've heard the podcast. Both me and Sweens will be pretty keen to hear that you've converted over and you're actually watching these videos.
So just with the YouTube side of it and what you're doing now, like that, it's pretty cool to hear for me, like, because I'm obviously a fan of it and a massive fan of your videos, but to hear the backstory of it and the vision that you had for it and creating that virtual, a virtual hunt, like, did that take a lot of, like, sort of planning or thought process into getting out there and doing it, or you just like turn my camera on and I'm just going to talk?
Yeah, I think yes and no. Like, it definitely, I had an end goal of, obviously I really wanted to work up, like, say for example the start of the series.
Yep.
The first one I wanted to do was a stag hunt. West Coast, forest, maybe nice grassy clearings in a basin, somewhere like some beautiful area, nice river. The end goal
how beautiful is that river on there?
It's amazing, man.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. So that was 3 days hiking to get to that point. You know? So that was, I think I told you when I turned up earlier today, man, that was like my plan E or whatever it was. That was my final destination. Yeah. So that was the last chance, pretty much. But anyway, so yeah, I guess like to make those videos, I've got the end goal where I want to make a video from start to finish, like the whole journey of it. Obviously, I have to try and get an animal, a nice animal, because that's basically that boils down to what people want to see. They want to see a hunt of a nice animal.
Yeah.
So so the way I did it, the way I sort of planned to do it is on each hunt I did a lot of e-scouting, like figured out where all the right areas were going to be, where I thought I was going to have a good chance of finding an old mature animal.
Yeah. Well, 3 days hiking in is probably a good chance, though. Not too many people can hike
well, that's right, man. But yeah, sort of. But I suppose even then, like even then, there might have been a chance where I couldn't find one, and that's a long way to go for not finding one. So it was still, everything was up in the air. But obviously, the more remote I could get, the better my chances of finding a good age class animal was going to be. So yeah, to make the video, basically I just had to really document the whole hunt, the decisions that led me up to the part of the actual kill. I wanted to do that in detail. I wanted to talk to the viewer exactly why I was making certain maneuvers and certain decisions. And then, for example, if we use that first hunt, which is actually, I've broken each hunt in 2 parts. So you got a part 1, which is like the setup, the setting the scene type episode.
Yep. And
then locating the animals, and then part 2 works in towards getting the animal, securing the animal, and then the aftermath of that, like the recap and the pack out and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, so I wanted to video and document that whole build up to the hunt. And then if we use that first hunt for an example, I end up setting up in an island. I get into that back basin, which is a freaking long way back, man.
Yeah.
And I find a nice island of trees that's overlooking the most perfect meadow that you've ever seen, surrounded by mountain bluffs, and I sat there till dark. And just before dark, in that prime time, just like in a Wild Boy story, the prime time when everything starts to move, I started to get stags coming out, like younger stags. And back in my younger days, man, I would have shot the first stag that walked out. I would have been like, yeah, boy, here we go.
We're on.
So, that but I don't know, over the years, I've decided that, I really want to get an old one. I really want to find an old animal. So, I was holding out for an old one. And there was going to be no guarantees I was going to see one, man. But I'd sort of made that decision. And anyway, just before dark, that big old stag comes out. You would have seen it on the video. I won't talk about it in detail too much.
Yeah.
So, if you want to know more about it, you can watch the video.
Yeah.
But anyway, this big old stag walks out. So basically, the whole storyline of the video is what made me decide to sit there and wait, and how I did it. Like, this is all my own personal stuff, personal decisions as well. I'm not saying this is how you should do it, but this is what I do.
Yeah.
So, like.
But how cool is that though for the viewers, and for myself personally? Like, you're a professional hunting guide for the last 10 years. How awesome is that you share that intel and that knowledge, and like exactly that, make us feel a part of it. We're a part of these decisions, and it's like, oh yeah, like I never thought of doing that before. I want to try that next time or whatever. And no doubt you're probably going to get some feedback, from hunters that watch the video and go, oh, I tried what you're talking about in this moment, and this is how it worked out for me.
Yeah, and funny you say that, because I have had so much feedback about it.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's good, and this is all sort of stuff that I would just do anyway. But to be able to put it onto a video and teach people that may not have done it before or something like that it's quite cool. But yeah, like the video itself, just I'm explaining why I'm doing stuff, why I've sat here, where I'm looking, like what areas can I see, where I'm expecting deer to come out, and all that stuff. Like, I'm going into detail on the video, and it's not just like your normal hunting video where we're sitting over here and we're just going to wait for a deer. Oh, there's one, shoot it, bang.
Yeah.
It's like more detail to it.
Yeah. Well, how good's I guess drones nowadays, and how you use the aerial shot, and you can, with the editing of your video, you can show where you're located, the points that you're looking at, where you think it's likely that a deer's going to come out.
Yeah, that's quite cool.
And it's so you know, like how epic a drones and the size they are, the packability, you can get them in. You're 3 days a hike in, you know.
Well,
like
yeah, so that's a good point actually,
Yeah.
because that creates like a bird's eye view of the whole thing. So when you got a bird's eye view of something, you can see, I don't know, you can take into, you can, I don't know, absorb it better, I guess. But yeah, like little funny side thing about that is that I packed that drone in all the way back there, and although it's a 3-day hike to get back there, like I think we're talking like day 8 that I'm up in the hills by the time I'm here. So the drone batteries, they've all depleted back to 60% battery.
Oh yeah.
So
just from being stored.
They do like a safety discharge thing when it's so long and it's at such temperatures because it's cold. We're talking in the negatives in the mornings, and the batteries go into like a hibernation mode where they discharge. So yeah, like I'm carrying this drone around for like just these short little scenes. Like it's all I need, but it's like a couple of kilos worth of weight that I know that I'm gonna. At the time, I'm like, darn drone, but afterwards, I'm like, man, I'm glad I carried that. Yeah. But I don't know, man. Like that video there was kind of like the kickstart to that little series that we're talking about, man. And that hunt is always going to be special for me because I had my old dog Nigsy Boy with me, who's one of my old original pig hunting dogs. He's been there from the start, and he's retired with me, sort of thing.
He's here.
He's here with you. Yeah, you've seen him, man. Yeah, your kids were blooming hassling him and playing with him tonight. It was quite cool.
Yeah, he was pretty keen on coming inside too.
Oh yeah, no, he knows where all the good spots are.
Yeah.
But so that was a special hunt to have him there with me, and like he's not a deer stalking dog, but he loves to go for a deer hunt, and he indicates and all that, and he was liking it, even though. Right at the time that I shot the stag, he was sleeping underneath my jacket.
He was under your jacket, eh?
Yeah, but that's a special hunt for me, man. That's like the wild boar one. That's something that I won't be forgetting. Yeah. And to have it on film was even better. So the feed I remember when I first uploaded that, like the part 1 of that series, that little 2-part series of that stag hunt was there was no kill shot in it. There was no stag being killed at the end. So I was like real nervous about it when I uploaded it. Like I loved it. But I was like, if I upload this, what are people going to think? Because people are going to wait to see a stag being shot at the end, but there was none. Basically, it was the build up to the point to when just before the stag came out. So I split the video into 2 to keep the time frames down lower. Otherwise, you'd be watching like a 40-minute video. I wanted to keep it down to like a more watchable length.
Yeah.
And then
is that the reason for the 2-part?
That's pretty much the reason. Yeah, because like we're all busy, so I feel like a video somewhere around the 10 to 20 minutes is about where I want my videos to be. So I ended up cutting it into 2. So the first part is the build up and the introduction, setting the scene of the hunt. I really enjoyed it, but I wasn't sure how it was going to go. But the feedback
I'm pretty sure I messaged you straight after.
You might have been.
Yeah, and I was like, when's part 2 coming out?
The feedback I got from it was amazing.
Yeah.
Like, everyone was like, we're so excited to see part 2 of this hunt. That was awesome. The feedback I got was probably like 10 times better than I thought I was going to get to guys. Yeah, I thought it was going to be a flop. I thought people were going to, be disappointed in it because I didn't kill anything in it. But... the feedback I got was amazing. So, it was really cool to see that people were enjoying the journey.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. It was the journey, and part 2 was the rest of the journey, and then the end of it, basically. So that first 2-part series was cool, man. Real cool. And that kicked off the rest of the season, and the rest of the series to come was. It just got better and better, man.
Yeah, so the other stuff, obviously, you filmed this, you got part 1, you released part 2 of that, the first hunt. These other hunts, they would have already happened by the stage, you were in the editing stage?
Are those or you after me?
Oh, okay.
So I got I got out of the hills and I was straight on the computer. I was staying with a friend, Macca's place, Macca in Wanaka. So I was staying in his little cabin.
You would have been fizzing to go again after the feedback.
Yeah, shit, yeah. So I uploaded part 1. It was mean. Yep. Epic. Perfect. Perfect. The feedback on it just made me so amped.
Yep.
So part 2 went up a few days later once I edited it, maybe a week later. And then as soon as that went up, I was like waiting for the next weather window to get out for the next mission. So yeah, it was sort of it just went on from there, man. So I was coming out of the hills and I was straight into the makeshift office that I had, and then editing up the videos, launching them up onto YouTube, and then into the hills for the next one. So that's kind of how that worked out, man.
Yeah. So you're getting into the hills, like that one there, you hike 3 days in, and you're talking through how you make this video. Like, there's a lot of equipment that goes into a hunt, let alone being able to film it, battery life. What sort of weight are you carrying in there? Like, these packs must be heavy.
Yeah, so my pack, I think on average, it was weighing about 40 kilo.
Yeah.
And I was most of the hunts were big hunts, like I think the stag hunt was 8-9 days or something. The next series that went up was 9 days, so decent length times. So I had to carry a lot of food. A lot of that weight was food.
Do you have to sacrifice a little bit on food with all the camera gear, or you just
no, like the way I see it, the way I see it is I carry all my gear that I need, like my hard gear, like my camera gear, and then the food side of it, I break all my food rations down to a daily allowance.
Yep.
And then
do you pack that like separately, like?
Yeah, pretty much. I break it into little packages so that each day I know how much I've got and how much I can eat, and it means I don't undereat or I don't overeat.
Yep.
But then anyway, so I always want to go in and make the most of that weather window. But in saying that, just quickly, as you probably see in some of the episodes, the weather reports are subject to change.
Yeah.
So while I'm in there, then all of a sudden, the weather can turn nasty. So you just got to put up with it. But basically, with the food, I don't skimp out on the food.
Yep.
I found like the Go Native meals were my favourite meals.
Yep.
Because they were like the backcountry cuisine are good and all that. Go Native was probably my favourite because it's like a home cooked meal packaged.
Yeah.
It's not a freeze dried meal.
Yeah.
It's like I just heat it up in my jet ball and it's ready to go. It doesn't have to rehydrate like some of that dehydrated or freeze dried meals.
Yeah.
So Go Native,
that would add slightly more
weight.
More,
it's heavier, but I feel like it's a better return.
Yep.
But anyway, that's like a whole nother podcast, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty much like the food, the way I see my food is that the food is your fuel. If you don't have good food, and this is my personal experience, if you don't have good food, then you're going to handicap yourself as far as your ability, man.
Yeah.
I suppose it's like you if you go onto the rugby field, man, you want to be ready for it with the right fuel on board, eh?
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, so the time of videos that you've got, so sort of that 10 to 20 minutes, is that, if you're hitting sort of in that range, does that help with viewership, like with YouTube and how it works?
Yeah, I think
because I don't really get how YouTube works, and
YouTube's.
I know that I get your videos because I'm subscribed to your channel, but it's obviously reaching a lot more people than just the people that subscribe.
Yeah, so YouTube's super temperamental. You have to be the algorithm's like worse than a woman. But nah,
shit is confusing.
But I think ideally, like, we're all busy. So those long videos, although they might be good in some situations, most of us don't really have the time to sit down and watch a 40-minute video. So I sort of personally made the rule that I want to try and keep my videos between 10 and 20 minutes. 10 minutes to 20 minutes is, pretty doable. We might be sitting around in one evening, just after dinner or something, and you've got a bit of time to burn. So that's when you'd watch your favourite shows, So I just want to keep my videos to that sort of length, and I feel like that's a good length for people to watch. I don't know if it's the right thing, but that's kind of what I've been doing, man.
Well, it's working, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm getting views from all over the world, not just New Zealand. New Zealand's a huge part of it. Like, it's definitely, it goes through New Zealand viewers massively, and then it starts going overseas. So it's my videos are going all over the place, it seems. So it's quite cool that people all over the world are actually seeing what New Zealand has to offer. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Like going back to what we were saying before, we don't realise how lucky we are to be living in New Zealand. So to be able to show it off to people is quite special, I feel.
Well, it's pretty amazing. Like, you look at that stag video, for example, with a little bit of know-how and some hard work in terms of, chucking your pack on your back and getting in there. Like, look at what you could see. And even if you shoot a deer or not, that country's amazing. And you do a really good job of showcasing that too. I do want to give you, big raps for that, because, I really enjoy watching your videos, and I don't watch them on my phone for the fact that I know that the camera work's going to be really good and the edit's going to be good. So I save it to watch it on my TV. And, normally my boys are there watching it with me. But that's, like, I do that because I want the full experience. I want to put it on my TV because, I think you do a really good job of capturing, so much and the journey and all the, how beautiful New Zealand is.
Yeah, like, I must say, it's pretty hard not to get the beauty in there, because, man, everywhere I point the camera is just, like, freaking amazing,
Yeah. I think you might say that too a few times, in the videos. You're like, oh, well, I could basically point the camera anywhere and it's going to look good.
Oh, it is though, man. Like, you never get sick of that, eh?
Yeah. No, it's pretty cool. You've obviously got some more of the hunting series coming out too.
Yep. There's a couple more episodes to come up.
Yep.
And, like, as I'm on my way back up to the coast up north, so once I get back up there, I'll be setting my office back up. Currently my office is in my truck. I've got a 40-something inch computer monitor and all the gear. So once I get home, I'll be setting up my computer and I'll be able to finish those next 2 episodes.
Yep.
And they'll go up, and then that'll make 9 episodes out of this little series.
Yep.
I think. Man. But then we're sort of like, the hunting season is basically finished. Like, the stags have dropped their antlers. For example, the bull tar, they're losing their big majestic golden mane. So this time of year, it's coming into summer. What are we, November now?
Yeah.
Coming into summer, man. So it's like, it's fishing time, bro.
Yeah, right. Big kingfish.
Yeah.
Just one more thing before we jump off there is battery life. How do you deal with battery life in the hill?
Batteries don't like cold.
Yeah.
So as most people probably have experienced that, for example, your car battery, especially in the South Island, normally wintertime is when you have to replace your battery.
Yeah.
So batteries don't like cold. So the way I deal with my batteries is I keep them in my pockets that are close to my skin, like chest pockets or pants pockets, but underneath the outer layers of my gear, my Stony Creek stuff. So generally, if you keep it to your skin, your body temperature keeps the battery at a certain temperature, which makes the charge that it's holding last longer, put it that way. Yeah. Cold eats batteries. So if I can keep them warm, they're going to last those long periods of time.
You chuck them in your, like, sleeping bag at night?
Yep. Yeah, I definitely do. Yeah. Like, when I'm sleeping, I've got a little black zip pouch kind of thing bag, and I keep all my batteries in that, and I'll put that in my sleeping bag next to me. So literally my power banks, all my batteries are in my sleeping bag at night, and then during the day, the batteries that I'm going to be using for the day, like for the cameras that I'm running or whatever, as close to my skin as possible.
So there must be a lot of thought process going to your power banks, and then your use of cameras and timings and how long you use them for. That must be quite calculated when you're 9 days in the hill.
It definitely is. So I carry a couple of big power banks, and they sort of keep me going for a while. But
have you ever got close or ever run out of life?
No, I've never run out. But I've been, like, pushing it. But nowadays I try to keep enough battery power on hand that, so for example, if I'm in my tent at night, like these recent trips, I'm by myself, just me and my old dog or whatever, I love to go back over the footage I've captured that day. I'll look through all the footage I've captured that day every night when I'm in my tent or at camp. So now when I'm packing batteries and power banks, I allow enough power to do that big playback.
Yep.
So basically, for example, it takes one battery in the camera. It takes one full battery to rewatch all that day's footage. So
Yep.
I allow to be able to recharge that battery again.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
That
makes
I just
sense
really
to me.
like to look back over the footage of the
Yep.
day and just see what I captured. And, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
I suppose it helps you plan
The
for
next,
the next day
Yeah,
too.
that's
as well,
right.
eh?
Yeah, exactly.
So it might be like, oh, I need to make sure I go and capture that area
Yep.
because I didn't get a snippet of
Yep.
that or whatever.
maybe I'll talk about this or something. Yeah, definitely. But I do. Yeah.
How cool are like power banks though? Like I remember when I went and started playing rugby in Japan, I'd never seen one before, and we'd get over there and I'd get on the train going to a game with the boys, and all the Japanese boys are pulling out all these things and plugging their phones into them. I thought, what are they? And then because they're just on their phones the whole time, like they're just watching YouTube or whatever, and then sure enough, with us foreigners would get on our phone and phone's gone flat, and we've got a bloody 2 or 3 hour train ride, and I didn't know what they were up to, and then one of them gave me he asked if I had my power cord because he seen that I'd gone flat. So I was like, oh yeah, and he plugged it into this little box that he had and plugged it into my phone, and it was charging it, and I thought it was magic.
No,
But,
I think
yeah,
we're a bit behind the times over here, eh?
yeah.
But yeah, power banks are like, man, I don't go anywhere without them now, eh?
No, but they're amazing at the amount of charges and stuff you can get out of them nowadays for the size.
Yeah, yeah.
Like how big are yours?
Well, the two that I like to carry on those big missions, they're both 20,000 milliamps.
Yeah.
So they're both pretty big power banks.
Yeah.
But they're small in profile, but they're big in charge.
Yeah.
And that generally, I think most cell phones is somewhere around 2,000 milliamps battery power.
Yeah.
So if I've got a 20,000 milliamp charger, I can charge my phone 10 times.
Yeah.
But then, I'm running all sorts of different camera batteries and stuff. So.
Yeah.
But I find those two power banks can generally last me that whole 8 to 10 days, whatever it is. I've got power to bring home, put it that way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, eh?
Yeah, I'll show you the power banks tomorrow. They're actually pretty cool. Yeah.
No, wicked. Yeah, so might as well jump into the fishing there because we mentioned it there, and I love watching your fishing videos too and chasing the big kingies on the stick baits off the rocks. But with fishing, obviously growing up in the far north was a lot more accessible than the
We go fishing up there, eh? I will
I
admit
love
that
it up
Northern's not so great for any deer hunting or anything like that, but man, we've got some cool fishing.
yeah.
So yeah, fishing's always been there for me, eh?
Yeah.
And fishing, I absolutely love my fishing, and summertime for me is just fishing. I do a lot of work for fishing companies as far as content creating and stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm pretty blessed to be able to do a lot of fishing, and as we speak, man, I'm on my way north, and come mid-November, so in a couple of weeks' time, I'm going to be embarking on a 15-part video series. So based around the same sort of guidelines as this hunting series, but with a fishing, camping, adventure theme to it. Yeah, so I'm really. Bro, you're coming up for that, man. Yeah, we've already talked about this. You're going to be on one of these episodes.
Nice.
So
Get pulled off the rocks probably.
So yeah, I'm so excited to get into that, man, because that's I'm pretty keen to get back up in that tropical sort of feel, eh? I love the mountains. I've been down there for a while now, but yeah, I'm pretty keen to get back home.
Is that awesome for you, having that contrast of lifestyle, being able to go back to the far north, and it is so far and so disconnected from, I guess, the hills? Do you find that gives you a really good life balance?
Yeah, definitely, man.
Yeah.
I think so I haven't been home since February. So it's been a while, but I will admit, and I told the story yesterday, actually. I was telling Gerald, when I drove from Wanaka to come up here, obviously the first piece of coastline I come to is Kaikoura, where you're right against the coast, and if anyone's driven that Kaikoura road, you're basically on the ocean. The ocean's right there. So I remember I drove from the mountains and I got over to the coast, and I felt so I don't know, it was a weird feeling I felt at home. I had the windows down in my truck. All the windows went down and I was just like breathing in the salt air.
Yeah.
And I didn't realise I was doing it at the start. Like it was sort of subconscious it happened. And after a while I like clicked and I was like, man, I'm really loving the salt, the salt atmosphere, salt water atmosphere, ocean atmosphere, I should say.
Mm.
So yeah, like I guess where I'm going with this is like I'm probably missing home, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, because do you find that having that, to me, that was when I was in Japan, I longed to come home. Like, I just missed home. Like, no tomorrow, because I missed my hobbies. I got, I was like reborn back into my passions again with, fishing and hunting, because I kind of took it for granted because it was there all the time. And it's like anything, if you're doing it all the time, it kind of loses its fire in a way. Like, not saying it dies out, but just slightly takes the edge off. But for you, having that split, you're when you're in the hills, once you'll be, your fishing disconnection of going up, again, away from hunting, when it's time to go back to hunting, like you'll be just amped and fizzing for it.
Yeah, definitely.
And then vice versa in reverse.
Definitely, yeah, definitely, 100%. So yeah, like right now I'm fizzing to get fishing.
Yeah.
Like I just want to be hooked up to a massive kingy. And I want to be getting my arms stretched.
Yeah.
But then, come February, all I'll be thinking about is roaring stags.
Yeah.
I can guarantee it. Happens every year. So, yeah, I guess you're right, man. Like I definitely, I'm pretty blessed to be able to do all these missions with the line of work that I've chosen to go down. And obviously that stems from that early age when the teacher asked me what I want to be. I just focused on it. So yeah, I'm pretty blessed to be able to do all these missions and never take it for granted. And I just love following the seasons around, and yeah, man.
Yeah.
I just love it, eh?
Yeah. Yeah, so with the fishing, with the adventuring and the land, because you're mainly land-based, eh? You do a lot of stick baiting off the rocks
It'll be all
for big kingies.
All land-based stuff, eh?
Yeah.
And whether, there might be times where I'm with mates like Mike on top lures. We do quite a lot of missions together. But, we may be taking his boat out to an island, or we might be fishing off his boat. But most of the time it's land-based.
Yeah. You did that awesome mission. When was that mission you done where you flew out?
Oh, that was actually one of the last big trips I did last summer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that was one of the final ones I did.
Was that the one with the big rock pool?
Yep.
You're releasing the kingies into the rock pool?
Yeah. So that was that was I think February last year. February this year, sorry.
Yeah.
And that was the last big away camping trip. What we're talking about is we took a helicopter to a remote location and set up a base camp, and then we basically just fished and caught some pretty nice fish.
Yeah, you caught some big kingies.
Yeah, it was awesome, man. It was good fun. So, that's the sort of stuff that this fishing series coming up is going to be all about. It's that like wilderness sort of remote adventure based fishing.
Yeah.
It's not just like going down to your local and catching a fish. Like I want to be same style as my hunting show that I've just done. I want to be doing remote, out of reach kind of places that's taken me a bit of effort to get to, put it that way. And not just focusing on fishing, like based around the whole camping aspect, as well as like where we're camping, why we're camping there, and then like we're catching, maybe we're not taking in any food. We might be just planning to live off the ocean, so catching fish and shellfish and showing how we're doing it and what we're doing.
Yeah.
But then, like I love catching giant kingies off the rocks, so that's obviously going to be like the pinnacle of each mission. So yes, I don't know. I'm just amped to get into it.
Yeah, I bet. I might have to tow my boat up. I might have to tow Mini Chiefy up, and
you should, man.
Yeah. Might have to go out and chase a marlin and try and get it on film.
We should, man. We should make that a mission. Yeah, I reckon.
Definitely.
I'll be keen on that.
You'd be keen on that?
I'll be dead keen on that.
Yeah. Nah, that'll be epic. Yeah, where do we go to from here?
Oh, I don't know, man. I think if anyone's listening to this, they can probably find the channel. You'll probably have links for you, and then,
definitely. I'll chuck up all your links to your social and to your YouTube channels. Yeah, because there is two, eh?
Yeah, there's two. Yeah, so
J.E.Wilds.
Yep, J.E.Wilds is my stage name. Pretty much what I go by. Yeah, that's what all my work's under. And then the fishing channel is J.E.Wilds at this point in time. But
Yeah.
I've got a hunting channel and a fishing channel.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like we could probably delve into the fishing channel on another whole podcast.
Yeah. We
Almost,
could, Yeah.
Once we've done a mission together.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure people will be pretty keen to watch the videos. Like they're going to be good fun. They're going to be awesome fun to make. So yeah, I'm excited, man.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, that's just looking at my notes. Is there anything we haven't covered off? No, that's us.
Oh, it's been a good chat, man.
Yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to?
No, I don't
Share
know,
it
man. I
with
just think people listening to this just enjoy New Zealand, set some goals, get out there. But yeah, in a lot of my videos, I always talk about enjoying New Zealand. So I suppose that's a good way for me to finish it.
Yeah.
Yeah, enjoy New Zealand. Don't take it for granted. Get out there and have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And definitely do what you're passionate about is a big one for me. What I've taken out of this conversation,
Mate, you only live once, so.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, like the more I think about what I've been able to achieve with my rugby career, it's because I was passionate about it and I cared, and that's what I wanted to do. So, if you're passionate about something, you'll find a way to be successful at it. And from you reading those books taking out the hunting magazines as a 13-year-old, you wanted to be a hunting guide, and then yeah.
No, that's right, I think once you set your mind to something, it's amazing what will happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I want to say thank you, Joe. Wicked, man. So cool of you to make your time available and stop in on your way north. I'm very grateful, and I'm sure our listeners will be too.
No, man, I appreciate it. It's been a good time. It's not over yet.
Yeah.
Halfway through my glass of this good George beer.
Yeah.